That's right.
Huh. Well, what's been up this week, Chris?
Um, a lot of
Same.
news internationally and a lot of little news domestically, but otherwise for me, just about the same old.
Yeah. I noticed you were mentioning a minute ago about the what do they call it, the late show with Colbert or
Yeah,
something
right.
like that. Um what what exactly you said, what was it you said they were supposedly losing $40 million a year?
Yeah,
Something.
$40 million a year loss on that show, and I think that I really think that some of the networks are changing their entire model about what they're doing. I understand that most places or most people there's been several polls out, but most people don't get their news from cable news anymore, and which is advertisers look at that too, and they want to put their money, of course, where they can get the most bang for their buck. They're going to online, they're going to YouTube, they're going to TikTok and Instagram and all these other places that people are looking at. And when they want you to buy a 30-second or a minute spot on cable news, excuse me, and nobody's watching, it's kind of hard to stomach
Huh.
that. And
Yeah.
they were losing a bunch of money. Colbert had, I don't know the exact numbers, but according to Megan Kelly on a clip that I saw, he had just under 200 employees for that one show, which is just astronomical.
Yeah.
And uh, all of those employees wanted a paycheck. I'm fairly sure. Uh, and when you're losing money, you got to trim the fat. So
hmm Chris, here on the Divine Economy, how many do we have?
you and I, big guy.
You can say it. Yep. It's just us two. So imagine that, having 200 employees, like Chris was saying earlier, whose full time job it is to. Well, no, I guess that was the Megan Kelly part that you were talking about. She had 9 producers.
Right.
So, man, imagine having just 9 producers helping you all the time. That's wild.
Yeah, when Megan Kelly was on the Kelly Files, Fox News, number one cable news show in America, she had 9 producers. Um, and she was remarking about how small her employee batch was, compared to Colbert's. But still, I thought 9 producers. Wow, must be nice.
Yeah, and I mean, I imagine that he was still collecting a pretty good salary
Oh
himself.
yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, 40 million being split out amongst all those
No,
guys.
no, 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 no. That was the loss that they
Oh
were.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that was the
I
lost
don't
part
actually
of it.
know what his paycheck was. I guess I could probably look that up. But
Yeah,
yeah, that was the loss, which is
that's a big loss. Yeah,
and then they act surprised when they're cut.
yeah. I mean, I think a lot of people really underestimate people's desire for people to be honest, or people telling the truth. I think a lot of traditional cable shows, well, I mean, obviously they're owned by very large corporations, so there's always going to be somewhat of an agenda behind everything.
Oh
But
sure.
but I think they really underestimate people's ability to tell when they're being lied to. So
That's right.
I think ultimately, and this is just my opinion, but I think ultimately that those losses come down to just people not wanting to be honest. Um,
That's right.
and yeah, I think podcasts, or at least I hope, are starting to help with that. I mean, nothing's ever perfect, so even podcasts and YouTube is sometimes not going to be truthful, but there certainly are truthful creators out there, and we try to be one of them. Um,
As best we can, best information that we can come up with, and uh, some of our. Well, I'll tell you this. According to me, one of our sources is Grok. So
yeah,
speaking of AI that we were talking about last week.
yeah, yeah. speaking of AI, I don't remember if we mentioned it on the podcast or not, but those of you that watch the market and look up news about stocks, I'm sure you've heard that Nvidia recently reached a $4 trillion market cap, which is kind of crazy. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Nvidia was the first company, at least public company in the world, to reach 4 trillion. There may be some, trillionaires that we don't know about really high up in the government, like Print royal family, or
And it would be interesting, those guys, they employ a lot of people, a lot of high paid engineers, coders, that kind of thing. I would be interested to know how their money is spread around. By the way, back to this question a second ago, in 2023, Stephen Colbert signed a 3-year deal worth $16 million annually.
Man. Yeah, that's another crazy thing about them is I imagine even when they do get canceled, they still get that golden parachute. So
As if, we're in the 3rd year. He's already got $32 million. I don't know what his lifestyle is like, but as if he needed the last year's salary.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, the good thing about receiving such a windfall like that is even if you do get terminated, it's like, well, I'm going to just go invest this money, put it into, some real estate properties, or put it into.
I'll tell you what, let me ask you right now, Kevin, if I could guarantee you $16 million a year for 3 years, would you be extremely distraught if I had to cancel your last year?
Not a bit. I might pretend to be a little bit sad in front of the camera, but then we're going on to the party right after.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, that's wild. And I don't know, it's crazy to me that businesses have just gotten to where they compete with each other on paying out these ridiculous sums to people. And it's always only a select few people that make that much money, but yeah, it's just, I don't know.
Well, we're the reason that is, we're the normal people. We are some of the people that do the living and the dying and the, we're the average taxpayers. We're not in that upper echelon. It's crazy how the West Coast and the East Coast, the ones that really run the media empires, they're the ones getting the money, the advertising money and all those things too. And when you have the kind of funds rolling in that they do, it's not hard to understand them paying those salaries like that because they're going to get the top talent.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's hyper competitive. To sort of change topics a little bit again, have you ever by any chance seen the movie Ready Player One?
I don't believe I have.
I don't know if it was Spielberg that produced it, but it was I want to say it was Spielberg. It was some big name producer. But anyway, the reason I bring that up was another thing that we haven't, I don't think, spoken much about on the show is crypto. And Ready Player One isn't about crypto per se, but it's a movie where everybody sort of spends the majority of their time in a virtual reality setting. And one thing that was interesting to me about it was, it was like like a VR headset that they would put on and they had like an entire ecosystem that they were living in on these headsets. And anytime that they would, take them off, you would see that, people were living in like mobile homes stacked on top of mobile homes. And it was sort of like, to me, it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. It was entertaining, but it also, to me, serves as like a bit of a warning about, that whole dystopian thing.
There was a movie. I can't remember. It was years and years ago, but it had the same premise. People were lounging around in their homes, VR set, just like you're talking about, and they would so neglect the real world, their bodies were wasting away, just absolutely decrepit, but they were living that virtual life.
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy, man. And you think, other than the fact that people right now, at least right now, are still getting out and about, we're living in that world.
Yeah.
A lot of people may not have that VR set on, but they got their face stuck in that phone.
Mm-hmm. And we've we've been through several generations of VR sets, and there's a whole nother thing called augmented reality that seems to be becoming more prevalent as well. I want to say augmented reality is, you put on a device and it basically just creates a 3D environment in front of you as opposed to VR.
You couple technology like that with AI, like we were talking about last week, and there's no telling where these things go.
Yeah. I know that augmented reality has a lot of potential for helping doctors and surgeons and mechanics and
Sure.
anybody that has to do a lot of visual planning. But
Well, and just like we talked about last week, Musk had mentioned that he believes that by next year that we'll be talking about and studying different areas of what was I'm drawing a mind blank. Physics.
there you go.
A different area of physics that we may not have even discovered. He believes we will be studying and talking about next year. And that's how developed and advanced AI has gotten. Plus, every day that rolls around, every day that the AI studies, it's getting smarter.
Yeah, new area of physics. I know. Yeah, I know that we're always discovering new things, and I'm sure of course, the internet and then AI has just sped everything up even more. That's one thing that I see more articles about than I do anything else is just random new technology breakthroughs. So it actually surprises me that we're not noticing the effects more drastically than we are.
Sure.
Because I'm always seeing new articles about new things. It's getting to the point to where it's kind of difficult to keep up with.
And we also don't know what new areas of technology will actually develop because of AI. If it's able to discover new areas of physics that we may not have thought about, how easy would it be for them to come up with, or for AI to come up with different technology and software that we may not have thought about? It's the possibilities, again, they're endless.
Yeah. And speaking of crypto again, I don't know if you've been watching Bitcoin, but I want to say Bitcoin here lately has been ranging anywhere from 113,000 to like 125. But it's continuing to surprise me. I'll admit that, and I'm still not crazy.
That's per share,
or per coin, I guess.
Yeah. Or per, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you would call it per coin. But
that's gosh, it hasn't been too long ago that it was like 64.
Yeah, it's definitely had some volatile movement, which is actually one of the things that has kind of made me personally shy away from it.
But you talk about just in a short period of time, it's doubled its value.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. Anything like that has a lot of potential to catapult your wealth, but it also has a lot of potential to sink you like a stone. And I still do not quite understand why people value it so highly. I just can't figure out what the big value proposition is behind it. Now I know.
Yeah, I think it's just a new techie thing.
Yeah.
I say new. It's been around a while now, but it's the techie monetary division.
Yeah. Yeah, I think people tend to get really excited about things and they pile into things, and sometimes that just makes prices go crazy.
Well, speaking of Bitcoin, does anybody actually understand the dollar and how it's valued?
Yeah.
I mean, we're kind of in the same boat with the actual physical dollar.
Yeah, I mean that's and that's another point is even though I'm not crazy about crypto, just about anything's better than the dollar.
Yeah.
So
I I know we have some smart people in the world, and I know we've talked about this before, and we have smart people that are supposedly smart people that are over the, the finances of our nations and the world economy. How in the world does somebody come up with the actual value of our dollar? You know how many hundreds of thousands of things you must have to take into consideration to do that.
mm-hmm.
It boggles my mind. I know there's smarter people than me that do that, but I mean, again, like we were just talking about, I think it would be just about as hard to come up with, the value on the Bitcoin as it is that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that, you know, I haven't actually looked a lot into that I need to look deeper into is how exactly they do assign some of those values. One thing that I was looking up earlier in regards to the dollar was some more information on the Federal Reserve. Um, you sort of we all sort of know that the Federal Reserve, or what we think of them doing, is monitoring interest rates, or that's primarily what we think of them as doing. But you know, they they have a few more responsibilities that I wasn't even aware of that I sort of educated myself on earlier. I want to say there's 12 separate branches throughout the country. Um, and another one of their main tasks is to supervise commercial banks, which is a job. There's a whole lot of commercial banks, and I don't think there's any sort of size limit on the ones that they monitor. So, uh, I mean, just a guess, but that's got to be thousands of banks that they're having to supervise.
Sure. And do you happen to know what is involved in supervising a bank? I mean, what is supervising a bank entail?
Yeah, from their end, well, I know that banks used to have, and I'm trying to think of what it's called. It's slipping my mind right now, but
I mean, making sure there's no fraud is one thing, but you've got to be able to get into the nooks and crannies of a place to find that out.
yeah, I mm, I want to say that. Well, I know that there used to be strict requirements on how much money a bank had to have in reserves.
Actual cash on hand,
Yeah,
and actual in the vault kind of money, and
yeah, and there's a terminology that's slipping my mind that I'm trying to think of in regards to that. But anyway, I've heard and read in recent years that that requirement has been lifted, so that's good for banks wanting to invest, but it's also potentially a little dangerous for another, market correction type situation, or like a 2008. But hopefully we don't have another crash anytime soon. But
reserves are required reserves.
um, yeah, well, I mean that's basically what it is. That's still not the term, but
Liquid assets, vault cash.
let me yeah, let me try to see if I can't find it. Uh, let's see what I'm gonna say. What is the rule?
This also says
Thanks.
that since 2020, the Federal Reserve has set reserve requirements to 0% for many banks due to changes in monetary policy.
Say that one more time.
It said since 2020, which is really since COVID, the Federal Reserve has set reserve requirements to 0% for many banks due to changes in monetary policy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
So some banks have to have 0% on hand.
yeah, that's what I was trying to get at, and that's concerning. I guess
Do you think that's because of the digital transfer of cash right now?
um
Or
I I really, honestly, I think it really just comes down to, and this is my guess, I don't know this for sure, but I would think that it's just simply banks lobbying more for politicians to give them that ability, because banks understand that having a bunch of cash on hand that's not being utilized for anything is actually seen as a liability because of inflation. So if you've just got money sitting around not doing anything and inflation's 3% a year, 5% a year, 10% a year, their mindset is, well, that's a liability because it's not being used for anything and its value is going down over time. So they want, just like,
Well, it makes me wonder. I wonder if you know, the amount that they promise you that they can get you at a certain amount of time has changed as well. Like, if I go to one of these places and I say, I've got an account at such and I need to pick up, 1.5 today, uh, or I need to pick up 1.5 in cash. Like, it has the amount of time that they're required to be able to get it to me changed
yeah,
as well.
it, I, that's a good question. I'm not even sure the answer on that one.
I mean, especially since some of them are allowed to have zero
Yeah.
on hand.
Yeah. I mean, I don't remember exactly what year. I mean, I know we had way back in the day the Great Depression in the 30s, I think it was, and I want to say there were some more bank scares or bank failures in the early 1900s, but I know that at least a couple times in the 1900s there were some runs on the bank where people were panicked and trying to get their money out, and so that's one of the big risks about them not having to have ample reserves is, well, if we run into that scenario again, how does that play out when they have no reserves? But I mean, I as a as a business owner myself, I definitely understand the need and the want to put money to work and not just leave it sitting around. But that a simple example would be, if I just threw all of my money into the market and had $0 in my checking accounts and my business accounts, it just seems like it's a potential recipe for a disaster. Um but yeah, I don't know how they can keep that going. I mean, I hope nothing bad happens, but definitely seems like a recipe for a bad day potentially.
Sure. And I know that, and again, we've talked about this on a previous episode, but I know that for a little bit, uh, at least Trump was lobbying at least for a new Fed chair.
Mm-hmm.
And correct me if I'm wrong, that did not happen, did it?
Nah, Jerome Powell is still there. But I've seen where apparently there are a few more people now still calling for him to step down or step aside or whatever. And I'm not gonna sit here and just defend the guy, but at the same time, I also I empathize with him a little bit on all the pressure that he's been facing because none of us like higher interest rates. I don't know of anybody that likes high rates, but the reason why they sometimes keep them higher is because, or at least what they've been saying, the reason is that the economy's too hot. So I think that they're afraid that if they lower it too fast, too quick, or too much too fast, that inflation will get kick-started again and prices will keep going out of control. So
To me, I don't really understand that part because and maybe you can help me with that. It would seem to me that lowering interest rates, again, you're going to get more people borrowing money, correct? You're going to get more people borrowing money when you lower interest rates. people are going to have more money, but I don't see necessarily how that would translate to. I mean, I get that. I guess from a standpoint that if you know people have more money, you could raise prices if you wanted to, but I don't necessarily see why they would.
Yeah.
But
Well, I mean, ultimately, a lot of the time it just comes down to straight up greed. But, um, I mean, I guess the simplest way to explain it is that, you know, the average person, the more money that they have, the more money they're going to spend. So it becomes a supply and demand problem. Sort of like, I think we saw some of it during COVID. Everybody got locked down because of COVID, and a lot of businesses were expecting people to spend less and do less, and sort of the opposite happened. And people were bored at home, and they were buying electronics and buying games. And
yeah, but I wonder if we'll ever look back one day, or if any information will ever come out. Not necessarily that people made the COVID thing come along for these reasons. Now we know more than likely, I'm about 99% sure that it started in a lab in Wuhan. However, I wonder if it'll come out one day that financial institutions, or the guys who pull all these strings, looked at this as an opportunity to shut things down, to change up the monetary shape of the world. Because when everybody was at home, that's when everything got messed up. That's when all the supply chains got screwed up. That's when all the prices got jacked up.
Yeah, COVID.
People know what they're doing.
Yeah. And it was, to me, it was both annoying and scary at how something, and I say small, it wasn't small, but it kind of felt, I don't know why, but it felt like a small event to me. But how some minor isolated event can produce that much chaos was just baffling to me. Because even today, people are having trouble, my understanding, or at least for a while, they were having trouble finding employees, staffing up, because I guess people got used to being out of the office and doing the work from home thing, and a lot of people just didn't want to come back. So,
right. Well, there are, we've basically been out of this. We've been out of what I would call the crunch of COVID for a good while now, for a really good while.
Yeah, it's been 5 years.
That's right. And there are some restaurant chains, some fast food places, that are still running things differently because they're unable to get employees in. In fact, back when COVID hit was when Walmart stopped running 24 hours, and they still haven't gone back.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's one of those examples that I wasn't thinking of, but they
were a 24-hour-a-day retail store, or at least in their super centers, they were. And they still haven't gone back.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't go in there late a ton, but I mean, I used to go in there late at least some. So it is kind of disappointing that we can't do that anymore.
Sure.
Now, granted, I understand it's hard to find people that want to work any kind of midnight shifts.
That's right.
But that is one of those things that I feel like we probably took for granted.
But at the same rate, if you did want that, it was available.
Yeah, it was nice to have.
That's right.
I think the only two.
It was also nice when you had a sick kid at 2 a.m. and you didn't have any medicine, you were able just to go pick some up.
Yeah. Yeah. The 24/7 thing's nice when it works. And matter of fact, the only two businesses that I know that are still around today that operate 24/7 off the top of my head are Waffle House and Whataburger.
That's right.
I can't even think.
And just so you know it, if there is any fans out there, Cane's stays open till midnight.
Raising Cane's, the chicken place.
During the week. Yeah. Their drive-through on the weekend stays open till 3 a.m.
Oh, wow. I didn't know they stayed open that late.
Absolutely. We'd appreciate them as a sponsor as well.
Yeah. Yeah. We'd like to get Cane's and Chick-fil-A. That'd be cool. Speaking of sponsors and all that, guys, if you enjoy the podcast and the content, we'd really appreciate it if you could throw us a like, subscribe, follow on Spotify or YouTube, whatever you're watching us on. We'd really appreciate that. And it helps the channel a lot, helps the algorithm push us up a little more. But yeah.
Do we want to talk about what we're using here?
Talking about the software.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm planning on making an ad for this, but guys, we just got a new partnership with this software company called Riverside. And I'll post a link in the comments to that. But that's what we use for the Divine Economy podcast. It's super helpful. It helps me. We were talking a little bit earlier about having employees and producers, and we don't have any of that. But Riverside sort of helps take on some of that producer responsibility. It even has a feature called like AI producer mode, and I use that a lot. And I can basically, most of the time, I can just throw my video and audio files in there, and I have no idea how it does it, but it edits them and aligns them the way that I need it to happen. Basically, with me just importing the files into the software. So, just a little shout out to Riverside. Again, I'll post that link in the comments somewhere. But yeah, I highly recommend you check it out. It's a really good and helpful thing that's been really helpful to us. So,
well, Kevin, how much time has it saved you editing?
Oh yeah, time wise, hours, definitely hours. It's made my life a whole lot easier for sure.
That feature alone would make me want to get it.
Yeah, it's well worth it. I want to say I'm on the pro plan, which is somewhere between $20 and $30, which you might be like, it seems kind of high, but when you, again, like Chris was talking about, if you calculate out the hours that it saves you, it's really not much. To me, time is always more valuable than,
absolutely,
a little bit of change. So I have no plans to turn back. I think I'm gonna keep using it for the foreseeable future. But yeah, so there's our little shout out to them. And like I said, I'll put something in the comments. But yeah, back to the whole COVID thing. It seems like the most common theory that I've continually heard was, like you said, the Wuhan lab thing. I remember that people for a while had a lot of other speculative ideas about where exactly COVID came from, but yeah, it seems like more and more articles pointed back to whatever lab that was in Wuhan. So it would be, excuse me, it would be interesting to know, though, like you said, it's hard. It's just hard to accept that such a big accident could occur. It seems like they're
well, one of the things that, and sorry for cutting you off, but one of the things that they remarked about, and we've kind of hit on some of these things before, is the lack of oversight as far as, how it is when you go to another country and some of the things are not quite up to par like they would be here. I know China is a world economy. They're probably, what are they, second, or they may be ahead of us. I don't know.
Yeah, they're definitely not far off. I mean, we're typically neck and neck somewhat.
But compared to what they spend on their infrastructure, as far as they have like what 1/5 of the world's population. What they had to work in there at the Wuhan lab, the things that were not being kept up, filtration system, I understand, was not up to standards like it should have been.
Faulty equipment stuff.
Yeah, right. Huh. And that things that were that simple were the cause of these this disease this virus getting out that affected the entire world.
Yeah.
That you're dealing with things that if they get out, they'll affect the entire world. But you have a faulty system that allowed it to get out. I mean, I just don't see how that happens. You know, I mean, I get that it did, but I guess I should say I don't see how you allow that to happen.
Yeah. No, I would expect a lab like that houses biological contaminants that can kill potentially millions of people. You would think that there'd be round the clock surveillance and security,
and this lab is supposedly, of course, you know, they're dealing with those kind of viruses. It's the highest quality labs that they have in China.
Yeah.
That deal with those viruses, and they let it get out. So how much less quality are the lower tier labs that are out there? When you think about it, our labs that would house these kind of things, or that would house things that we're doing research on that we don't want to get out in America, you would figure that in America they're pretty robust. Mm-hmm. The security and the safety precautions that we have, they've got to be pretty serious.
Yeah, no, I would think so. And to that point too, it makes me wonder how many other labs like that exist that we don't even know about.
Oh, that's right. that may have worse,
little lab.
May have worse stuff in it.
Yeah.
That we're, I mean, I understand that gosh, what is the name of the virus we're talking about? COVID. COVID is not gone, but it has severely weakened. And each year that goes around, it gets less and less. Now, what if something gets out that just, it doesn't go away, or God forbid, gets worse?
Yeah. No, that's a scary thought. Hopefully that never happens, but I'm certainly not a microbiologist, but that's definitely a scary thought.
Now, we don't have access to the entire history of the world, you know, because it's only been being recorded for a little bit of time now. Mm-hmm. But if it is as we think, something like COVID has never happened before. I mean, this is a world's first, and we lived in it.
Yeah.
It's another stunning thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we have had, I don't think these two are the same things, but I mean, you think about what at least what I learned in history books about, like the Black Death, bubonic plague, and but yeah, COVID.
Even just from the standpoint that it was man-made.
Yeah,
I mean, that has never happened.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. You know, it's like we were saying just a minute ago. There's no telling. That's one thing, one new virus that we know about. So there's a lot of stuff that could have been created that we have no idea about. So,
and again, I'm not one for conspiracy theories, and but my mind did run across this during this whole thing, that what if the COVID thing was just a test run for something worse?
Yeah.
You know, seeing how the world would react to it, seeing what stipulations that the population would allow to be put on them. And honestly, I think if you had to have good points coming from COVID, I believe that the world, at least the population that's rational and reasonable, has been awakened to what can happen and what restrictions can be put on you. And I believe that it will be a little bit different next time, that people may not allow those things to happen just from a standpoint of standing up to it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just another complication and crazy thing about how large the United States is to me, it felt like we had half the country trying to shut everything down, and then the other half of the country saying, no, businesses need to be able to do business. You know?
And the half that wanted everything to be shut down were the people that told you that the other people didn't care about their loved ones. They didn't care about their family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know.
Coincidentally, those are the people still wearing masks today. You know?
Yeah. To me, though, what concerns me about that is it shows the detachment from reality about, it's like people think that businesses are just these magical things that can, survive without money, which isn't true. Um, Especially any physical location business has a lot of overhead and expenses, and
Well, and you look, it opened a lot of eyes.
yeah,
I had no clue until COVID. I had absolutely no clue how, as far as the supply chain goes, how interdependent businesses were on each other.
oh yeah,
When you shut one thing down, it affects every other business almost, and I had no clue that would happen. And that was just a revelation for me. I didn't really understand how interconnected everything was monetarily.
yeah. The supply chain kind of surprised me too. You're not alone on that one. I knew it was a complicated thing, but it's a little concerning that it can be disrupted so quickly and the effects can be so drastic. So
And I wonder how people like, well, the shipping magnets, the ones who their entire living and breathing and dying is on shipping.
yeah,
Well, for a good period of time, they weren't shipping anything.
yeah,
And I just wonder how places and people like that survived. Uh, I'm sure that some of them probably are still going through a period of recovery, but
hmm
uh,
yeah.
it's just strange.
No, they had to have been getting squeezed. And another thing that I'm glad is at least some of them have survived is movie theaters. I thought for sure for a little while that we were seeing the end of the movie theater, but um,
Well, movies are always going to be made. How we receive them is going to change.
yeah,
I was just, my wife and I were watching a movie just the other day that came out uh, online. I mean, that would have been something that was unheard of until months and months and months down the road, just a few years ago. Um, about the time, back when DVDs were still were still a
yeah,
thing. When it came out on DVD, you may be able to receive it like that online.
mhm,
But that was months and months down the road. If you wanted to see the movie, you had to go to the theater to see it.
yeah,
Nowadays, that's just not a thing anymore. I mean, it is, but I also believe that method of receiving a movie is going to die as well.
yeah. No, I mean we have very much become an on-demand economy. Everything is like, well, I want it right now, so enable me to get it right now.
That's right.
um, and I mean, you and I both, remember Blockbuster, and I don't know if you ever remember or went to a business called Hollywood Video, but it was sort of like the same thing. But back,
Or Blockbuster.
yeah,
Or yeah.
yeah, Blockbuster was the first one. I'm and yeah, I wonder how many younger folks listen to our show that have no idea what
And those
Blockbuster is.
that was a huge thing. I mean, if you went to town, you had to make sure you had that little blue Blockbuster card in your wallet, or you weren't getting a movie.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. Just in a few years.
And you had to
Uh,
try to grab one before somebody else got it
that's
because
right.
there'd be like 2 or 3 copies, and when they're gone, they're gone.
Well, you think about this. Just let's say, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, Kevin, would you have thought that Apple, a small company that was sending DVDs through the mail called Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, some of these other places would be making feature films? I mean, actually making feature films instead of places like MGM or Paramount.
Yeah.
And they're making their own movies.
Oh yeah.
And who would have thought that?
You're about to take me down a whole nother rabbit hole talking about that. That's no, it's both nice. It's nice, but also concerning to me because again, I like capitalism and I like for businesses to be able to make more money and do well, but it's a little scary to me when a corporation can just get involved in any business that they want to get involved in because
Well, and I think we may have touched on this last week a little bit, but what do you think about, uh, I, I heard just the other day, again, that they're looking at breaking up Apple because, again, like you're talking about, they think it's become a monopoly.
yeah, it's they definitely, and I mean, don't get me wrong, just like a lot of other people, I mean, I do like Apple. I like their products. I know they've gotten expensive. Um, but yeah, it's whoever has to make those decisions on whether or not to break up a company like that. I do not envy those people because
Sure.
I mean, you under I can understand why they sometimes maybe feel the need to do that, but at the same time, there's effects that can ripple from that for decades.
Well,
Um,
to the defense of the people that want it to happen, I'm not going to say that every time you break up a company that it ends up this well.
mhm.
But when Bell Telephone broke up, it completely changed everything for the better as far as telephone communication went.
Yeah.
At least for the consumer. Maybe not for Bell was upset because they were making all the money, but
Mhm.
we all got better choices. The price of everything went down. Now that part was good. For the consumer, the breakup was great. And if
Yeah.
everything was like that, it would be good.
Yeah, not that's and I mean, that's the thing, you have to take care of your consumers. I wish more business owners would
Well, at
acknowledge.
what point do you decide? Like, how does our government decide this has gone too far? Now the consumer needs protection. Like, who decides that? You know?
Yeah. No, it's a good question. As far as I'm aware, we have to hope and pray that we have a very aware and very educated Congress and Senate and
And how do we know at that rate? How do we know that the people pushing for the people to break up the company aren't wanting to make the money themselves?
yeah,
By investing in a competitive company. Yeah,
yeah, competitors trying to sabotage it. I
that's
mean,
right.
I'm sure that's happened before. I mean, for all I know, and I don't know the exact reasoning behind the like you were talking about Bell or which I guess became AT&T later, right? Isn't
Right,
that the
and it became AT&T and several other companies.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know the specifics on that, but I do know, like you said, that at a certain point, a company accumulates so much power that, yeah, you have to,
And I guess you can look at it from, especially when a company gets that big, you can look at it from a percentage standpoint. They may be looking at it from, yeah, I mean, because you can get those numbers. How much of the phone market does Apple hold? Well, it has to be
yeah.
a huge percentage of the phone market. Uh,
And the cell phone is the first thing that we think of, but another thing that has been making some other businesses angry, by my understanding, is their sharp control over the app store,
mm-hmm.
because now not only do they have the largest market share on cell phones, I'm sure Samsung has a big chunk, but anyway, the all the apps that you have on your phone have to go through that Apple App Store.
Well, and we haven't actually seen the repercussions of it yet or seen it happen, but the same thing is happening to Google.
Mhm.
They're haven't they proposed breaking up Google as well?
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I wouldn't be surprised if they've been a target for the past decade or more.
Right, right.
But yeah, I I I guess these companies just continue to hire and pay good attorneys and actually I'm glad we got on this topic though because this is a point that I try to make to people about the stock market and the risks of investing in an already very large company. Most people only want to invest in the biggest companies like the top S&P 500 companies, Apple, Google, Microsoft, Nvidia and so on. And what we just spoke about is what I try to get people to understand is that it may seem like the bigger the company, the less risk that you have, but then you run into monopoly risk or government involvement risk, which is, you know, like we just spoke about, they decide, hey, you've gotten too big, you've gotten too powerful, consumers don't have any more different pricing options now. We've got to split you up. And I haven't actually invested in a company that has been forcibly split up, but you know, yeah, it's sometimes it needs to happen because it's good for consumers, but I haven't actually experienced what the fallout is on the investor side. And I hope that I never do, because I would imagine that you take a pretty hard hit as an investor when something like that happens. But and I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, boo-hoo," investor problems. But I mean, it's you know, I'm sure the Bell company, when it became AT&T and so on, I'm sure the folks that are invested in the original company probably took a pretty hard hit from that.
Sure. And were there huge whale investors in those things? I'm sure there were, but there's also the little guy that was invested too
Yeah.
that had to,
Yeah, it's not even so much like what you just said. I'm not necessarily thinking about like the multi-billionaire investors. I'm thinking about like the 401k guys and the
right.
TSP guys and the
Sure.
yeah, because I mean, and going along with this too, another concern of mine on this topic is, you know, just about everybody that has a 401k or a TSP plan or any kind of stock investment plan, most of them have significant funds tied up in the S&P 500, and the S&P 500 lately has gotten pretty top heavy. I can't off the top of my head, I can't think of how much of the S&P 500 is taken up by the top companies, but the companies that we're speaking about, Apple, Google, Amazon, and some others, I want to say now account for somewhere between 10 and 15, maybe even more percent of the entire S&P 500. So the risk there is if all of these top companies were to fail or take a serious hit, then that would drastically impact potentially employees across the nation.
As of this month, this year, the top 10 companies in the S&P take up approximately 38% of the index total market.
38%. That's way more than I even thought. The top 10 companies take up 38% of it. Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. It says this is near historic heights, with some sources indicating that it reached 39% in June of 2024. The top five companies, alone take up 27% of the value.
Ugh. See that? Oh, that's even worse than I thought. I, ugh. Well,
It says it's a record high, and it's higher than the dot-com bubble bust when it happened.
I was just about to say, folks, on that note, if you've made a lot of money in the market in recent years, it's okay to take some profits. I'm not saying you want to run and take everything out, but now would probably not be a bad time to take a little profit here and there, because
It says the Magnificent Seven stocks, which are Microsoft, Nvidia, Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, and the Meta platforms, and Tesla, have been reported to account for roughly 31% of the index in April of 2024. With their influence growing into 2025, at the end of 2024, they drove over half of the S&P 500's returns.
it's crazy. Man, I knew the numbers were high, but what you said was that's wild.
It's stunning.
Yeah, 30 something percent as well.
And five of the companies were 27% of that.
Yeah, that's that. I'm so glad we got into this, because those of you that are watching and listening, this is something that for some reason I struggle to explain to people about investing in the market and taking on risk. Is everybody's always hyped up about investing in the largest companies, and in my opinion, and again, I can be wrong, and hopefully nothing bad does happen, but sometimes investing in a really big company is actually the biggest risk. And another thing that I feel like people tend to not think about is, you know, the early investors typically sell the vast majority of their shares by the time the rest of us even hear about the company. So I think another thing that a lot of people don't even realize is there have been some companies that were created just so that people could take them public and sell all their shares to more common investors like us, just to say, hey, we took this thing public, we're selling it, and now it's your problem. Now, I mean, that's fortunately there are a lot of good companies that continue to grow as a public company, but sometimes it's a what is it? The Wolf of Wall Street movie called it a fugazi. Fugazi.
Just under, listen to this, just under 20%, just under 20% is Microsoft, Nvidia, and Apple alone.
Nvidia, say that one more time.
Just under 20% of those companies that I told you.
It's just Nvidia and Apple.
And Microsoft.
And Microsoft. Wow. That's crazy. And
that is 1/5 of the entire S&P are those three companies.
Yeah, that's extreme.
And Apple's about to be broken up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it happens.
Yeah, I was gonna say they've been talking about that, and I've yet to see it happen. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting.
Which is an interesting thought. We also don't think about that too, especially as big as Apple is, how that will affect the stock market.
Yeah. Well, here's another thing, I guess, to side with the consumer. Even though I'm a business owner myself, I'm a small business owner. I'm definitely not some big giant corporation, but to the point about protecting the consumer, if something isn't done soon, especially if AI takes off like people want it to, you have to start wondering at one point, does it become too late to, if you did want to break some of them up, at some point, AI might empower them enough to where they're so powerful that they can no longer be broken up. You know what I mean? Like, at what point does like a $4 trillion company, a $5 trillion company, or say a company becomes worth $10 trillion, that company, if it wanted to, what's to say that they couldn't hire their own army to fight against the government itself?
Yeah, or you look at it this way, and this is one of the things that's very telling to me, Kevin, is that when you hear about companies, and it's just in a side note, it's not something that they're talking about to reveal some kind of big secret about the companies, but I've heard about certain companies on a news show that are donating money to the political campaigns of Republicans and Democrats. When you're doing that, it's strictly about staying alive. It's not about doing good. You're just donating to both sides, so both sides will be happy with you. When you have enough money to do that, you're getting pretty big.
Oh yeah, and I think I'm sure that's exactly what the largest companies do. They know that, hey, we can't risk. It's 50-50. The left wins, 50-50. The right wins. Why take that risk and not just split money to both ends? So,
sure.
I mean, it certainly makes sense to me from a,
like, in California, we've got to donate to the Democrats, but in Texas, we've got to donate to the Republicans. They still like us. So we've got to, it's.
Yeah. That's, the two-party system. That's another giant rabbit hole everybody likes to go down to. I don't know.
Well, it would take a huge thing for anybody other than, we have some independents out there that are doing fairly well. Very, very rarely, but we do have some independents in Congress. An entirely new party, I don't know that it could ever get established.
Yeah. Well, everybody wants it to happen, but probably what you're getting at is, it would be tricky to implement it effectively because people, for whatever reason, are so tied up in, either being conservative or liberal that it's hard to imagine people in mass agreeing and making a switch somewhere.
Sure.
Because,
well, there are, I believe that there are a good amount of people in Washington, D.C. that would actually be considered a libertarian candidate, but it is so hard to get another party established that they just consider themselves a subwing of the Republicans, and because that's the only way they can get elected.
Yeah. And then, anytime I feel like anytime this comes up, you always have people that immediately come in and start saying, all you're going to do is take votes away from the party,
Right.
which I mean,
right.
is kind of true.
Which is understandable. That's the whole reason that Clinton was ever in office, that Ross Perot, who was really a fiscal conservative, he was in fact, business wise, he reminded me a lot of Trump. He wasn't as flamboyant. He wasn't as charismatic a figure as Trump, but a lot of the ideas that Trump is implementing, he had. He took about 10% of the national vote that year, and that put Clinton in office. So to people's credit, in a lot of instances, they're right. When you split one side's vote, you're putting the other guy in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it definitely, if you have a bunch of people that are no longer in that party and they take their vote somewhere else, I mean, it has to
And
happen.
the same thing would happen to Democrats too. If they had a charismatic figure and they started a new wing, a new party similar to the Democrats, the same thing would happen with them. They would split the vote.
Yeah.
Same thing.
And speaking of, since we're on this topic now, speaking of that, I'm sure you've seen some stuff where apparently Elon recently has been talking about creating a new political party himself. Have you seen that?
I heard that in passing.
I think it was the American Party, is what he was calling it, or something. But
yeah, that's not real specific, is it?
Yeah.
No, which is understandable, and honestly, somebody with his pull and the money that he has could get that going.
He could get something going, but I
don't really see Elon Musk putting much time into something that he's not really sure about.
Yeah. I'd be surprised too. I think guys like Elon are just trying to get the public to be self-aware enough to where they'll shake things up themselves. Yeah. I think he's just trying to poke and prod and get people to do something.
Well, I think that he has some good ideas. I think that, I'll be honest with you, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in some of the meetings that were had shortly before and shortly after he left, especially regarding the stuff with Epstein, because regardless of what you think, if you think there's anything there, there is something. We don't have the full story there. Anyway.
Oh, there's still, I read something earlier on the Epstein thing where is it Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House? Mm-hmm. Apparently he was, I swear I read something that said that he made a decision that they weren't going to, I don't know if it was meet about it or something.
They went home early because the Democrats were trying to cause some trouble in the meetings they were having.
Yeah, and it was something like, I thought it was something about they weren't meeting again until like September or something like that. But something about the article wanted you to believe that was so that the Epstein files couldn't be released or discussed. So, but anyway, after seeing all this chaos from the Epstein files recently, to me it seems like, I'm starting to agree with people that think that they're trying to hide something. Why would you not release whatever people are demanding that you release unless you're trying to hide something? Because I don't know.
Today, Mike Johnson canceled votes and sent Congress home early for the summer recess to avoid a vote on releasing files related to Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah.
This decision followed a push by Democrats to insert language into legislation requiring the public release of Epstein-related documents which some Republicans opposed. Johnson's move was reported as an effort to sidestep the contentious vote, with sources noting it was driven by pressure to avoid a public stance on the Epstein Files, which has stirred controversy among conservatives due to their potential implications. Other than the Republicans viewing this as some kind of political stunt, I don't know why you would oppose the release of the files.
Yeah, and they say it's a conservative thing, but from what I'm saying, it seems like this is actually a bipartisan thing. I feel like a lot of people on both sides want to know what all was behind this because even though conservatives talk about it a lot, there's the potential for, we know that, and I'm not picking on Trump. I don't know what the details on that relationship was, but we do know that Trump, had somewhat of a relationship with Epstein, or I mean, he was.
Well, yes. I mean, there are plenty of people that I have confidence in that in the very beginning at least were acquaintances of his. They may not have known what was going on. Now, regardless of who it is, I'll tell you right now, I'm a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
All right. If Trump was somehow involved with him and all this kind of stuff, he needs to go. I mean, I don't stand up for a person just because I believe they're my man. All right.
Yeah.
If they're doing wrong, I don't care who you are, you deserve to be punished for it. Now, are there some people who don't want anything to come out because they don't want their reputation stained, even though they had nothing to do with it? Well, I'm sure of that.
Yeah.
I'm sure of that.
I think I could forgive somebody if they had associated with him with either prior to or without knowing what all he was involved in. But yeah, to your point, I think the ones that you hope to catch are the ones that were involved with Epstein whenever he was doing the nefarious things that he was doing.
If you did anything illegal, anything, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it was involved with Epstein or any of the rest of the stuff. If you did anything illegal, you deserve to be prosecuted. Yep. I don't care who you are, what political party you come from. If you're in my family, it doesn't matter. You get what you pay for. Yeah. And if you were involved in things that deserve prosecution, you deserve to be prosecuted. I don't care who you are. Now, Kevin, there are people on other sides who will not say that. If their person was involved, they want it covered up. Yeah. Or if their person was involved, even if it's out there, they don't want them prosecuted. They want them.
There's a lot of.
You can't be that way. You can't. Yeah. You can't play favorites. You can't be. You can't be a part of nepotism. You can't be a part of any of these things. Wrong is wrong. Deserves to be prosecuted.
And Chris, what's the word for that?
The word for what?
For what you're talking about, that wrongdoers need to be prosecuted and the good should be rewarded.
Justice?
Yeah. Yeah. Little thing called
that's right.
Justice.
That's right.
Yeah. So I think justice is important for sure. And
would it this is just a scenario, this hypothetical. Would it hurt politically and every other way for something to come out and Trump have to leave office? For sure it would. I love the way things are going. I love the job Trump is doing. I love the way the political landscape is going right now for me, conservatively. But right is right. Wrong is wrong. If we had to go through some pain right now to get rid of bad people, so be it. So be it.
Yeah. And like I was saying a minute ago, I have no idea, just like everybody else, who was intimately involved and who wasn't. But everybody's wondering at this point though, like, why are they trying so hard to hide everything about this case? So I'm sure that, like many other issues, they were expecting it to eventually just die down. And like, I don't even remember how many years ago this was now when people first started talking about Epstein. But, yeah, I might try to look that up real quick. Let's see, when did the Epstein thing start? When did Um, so I correct me if I'm wrong. I think Epstein was found dead in 2019. So we're in 2025 now. So it's been roughly 6 years, and people are still not dropping this issue. So I think I think politicians were just hoping that, like many other issues, people would just move on to some other concern and drop it. But so far, that has not happened, and I'm beginning to wonder myself if it will happen. Um,
By the way, I meant to tell you, one of the things that came up in my a minute ago when I was thinking about Trump is quick to sue people for defamation if they have called him out on something that is false, and I applaud him for it. He's got a reputation to uphold, and that can affect bills, that can affect things getting passed, that can affect his effectiveness throughout the world. One thing he has not done is threaten to sue Elon Musk over saying that his name was on the list. That being said, Donald Trump has filed a lawsuit against Dow Jones, News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, and two Wall Street Journal reporters over he's alleging defamation over a report claiming that Trump sent a suggestive birthday letter to Jeffrey Epstein in 2003. He is suing for $20 billion in this lawsuit.
billion. Oof. Yeah.
Now that's pretty confident that the letter that they have is not real.
Yeah.
You sue for $20 billion. You're not doing that just frivolously.
Yeah. That's definitely a huge suit. Yeah. Huh.
Additionally, Trump has filed a separate $20 billion lawsuit against CBS and Paramount Global over the editing of a 60 Minutes interview with Kamala Harris, alleging deceptive conduct. The suit was settled, however, for $16 million, significantly less, with the payment allocated to Trump's future presidential library.
Wow. And that was, you said the original amount was 20 billion?
20 billion, yeah.
And they said we'll give you 16 million.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah, so and then you said there's a whole other 20 billion separate suit.
Yeah,
So.
that's the one against Dow Jones, News Corp, Rupert Murdoch, and Wall Street Journal.
So had he won both of those, he'd be $40 billion richer.
Had he not settled. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I mean, not that, I think.
And I'll tell you this, what's crazy. News Corp, or actually Fox News division of them, settled a defamation lawsuit of several years ago for $747 million. I may be wrong, but I think that's the largest settlement that has ever been for a defamation lawsuit. But
did you say 447 million?
$747 million.
Man. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of one being that big. That's
But anyway, other than that, there's not really too much going on in the nation right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Never a boring day.
That's right.
Hey, speaking of that, what time are we at, Dina?
We're at 5:36 right now.
5:36, yeah.
So we're about where we
usually are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll or you got anything else on your mind?
I think that's probably it right now.
All right. I think on that note, we'll call it. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you, guys. Did you hit the red button again?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, Kevin, come here a second. Am I recording now?
Seems like it is.
Hit it again. Okay.
I guess that took it off.
All right. See, how about that? Well, I hit the button, and then record came up.
Wait. Oh, like it might not have been recording. Is that what you're saying? I guess we'll find out. Hopefully not. No.
Well, I'm sorry if that happened.
Do you remember when you were talking? Did you see where it said REC up here? Or could you tell?
When I hit the button right there, it said REC. Now I don't remember if it was there or not. Honestly, I mean,
Yeah. If not, it's not that big of a deal. It's
well,
just our first try with
well,
these
I hate
cameras.
that. If it wasn't going,
Yeah. We'll find out soon. we at least got the audio. Speaking of which, I need to. Sorry about that. Let me hit stop on audio.
oh man.